pro Delver of Secrets. And so Ben, if he was at all looking at Sam's deck list, which definitely had a really big splash this last week, he said to himself something that I know that other people have said. Brian Cole, a kind of famed deck builder, looked at Sam Black's deck list and said, you know, I know that it's had some success, but there's something wrong to my mind that you don't have Delver in there. And Ben has it. Now, this is not, of course, the first Blade Splash or Delver deck. And they're starting their match right now with a Ponder on Ben Friedman's side. Darwin Kastle is playing red-green Birthing Pod.
Wow, with 4 Bonfire of the Damned, just maxing out on those. He's just really favoring power over anything else. He has all the big guys, Elishnorn, Wormcoil, Silverheart.
So he's actually Naya. Full Naya.
Yeah, with 4 Birthing Pod. Not a number of pods you usually see nowadays. So both players just leading with Scar's Land.
We see a Ponder and a Gitaxian Probe from Ben Friedman.
Yep, this is Ben Friedman's turn 2. The Probe we'll see. Let's see, we have a Borderland Ranger, a Birthing Pod, a Primeval Titan, an Acidic Slime, and 3 lands. So not the best draw from Darwin Kastle. That's really slow. No 1-drop, no 2-drop. Was probably hoping Ben was on something a little different than what he is.
For those of you who are wondering what Ben's list looks like, if you read Star City Games Premium, his list looks very much like Sam Black's list, with one major difference. Take out some of the slow cards. That would be 2 Gideon, 2 Tamayo, and 1 Day of Judgment. Fit in 4 Delvers and 1 Dismember. Turn 2, we see a Snapcaster Mage come down, and it is recasting that that Gitaxian Probe. But not a Phyrexian Probe, Phyrexian mana, not a Phyrexian Probe.
It is doing its best Phyrexian Rager impersonation. A little more efficient, though. So Darwin Kastle did not draw a 2-drop, just has a land and passes. Ben Friedman firmly in the driver's seat right now. He has a lot of gas in his hand, and once you let Delver get ahead even a little bit, it's really tough to come back.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people, I know that in the last however long, I've had conversations with people about the value of theory. And one of the things about theory, when you get into a position, you know, when aggro control, a deck that can put down a clock and then back it up with some control elements that take up your opponent's time. When they get into that position, as you see right here, Darwin goes for a Daybreak Ranger. I think that was a Daybreak Ranger. It's off the screen right now. I can't see it anymore.
I think
Borderland Ranger. Yeah. That it just gets mana leaked, and that whole turn is wasted, and some word damage comes on through. Now, Ben, we last saw win not so long ago with Wolf Run Green in Maryland at the Star City Games Open Series there.
Yeah, he's a pretty versatile player. He can play both the Delvers and the Ramps pretty well. So he has no turn 4, representing maybe another Snapcaster to go with that mana leak. Darwin will try and bait it out by tapping out for this Birthing Pod. That's not a card he wants right now.
Snapcaster mana leak, which just doubles Ben's clock, keeps Darwin from letting that happen.
Yep. Ben Friedman, as you see there, is drawing his cards as though he has miracle cards in his deck. Now, we know he doesn't, but Darwin has to play around them.
Now, one of the complaints I've definitely heard about Miracle is just having to physically change the way you play your cards. A lot of people, and I have sympathy for this, find that annoying. We've got another Ponder from Ben Friedman.
Yep, he sees 3 more spells there.
4 Restoration Angels in Ben's deck. That is a lot of it. Restoration Angels.
Yeah, it's been one of the defining cards of Avacyn Restored. You know, a lot of people thought that other cards might be, but this was sort of a, I don't want to say a sleeper hit, but it did take a few weeks to catch on. It really did. So it looks like that is what he drew this turn. Off his Ponder. And Snapcaster's beat in, making the life total 16 for Ben Friedman, 12 for Darwin Kastle. And Darwin needs to do something really quick here because these Snapcasters, all of a sudden this is a 3-turn clock. It went from 2 power at 18 life to 4 power at 12 life really quickly.
Yep. Darwin draws. That Moorland Haunt also means that we're Darwin to, what do we got? Acidic Slime. Does that work?
Yep, that'll take out that Moorland Haunt.
Wow, that is if that resolves, that's a really big deal, actually. I would expect that it would be unsurprising to me if, nope, there it just comes right down. I was going to say it would be unsurprising if we see a Restoration Angel hit. Maybe it still will. Do we have any in hand? Nope. He has a mana leak. Just did not let it. Just did not stop it. Now that's really interesting to me.
Yep.
there an angel? There is an angel, okay.
So that'll blink out a Snapcaster. That won't do anything, but
Right.
the Moorland Haunt will hit the bin. Now,
So-
Ben Friedman saved that mana leak probably for the Primeval Titan.
Yeah,
everyone's hand.
yeah. Here we go. And he's got essentially a 5 damage clock, which is still 3 turns like it was before. And that assumes that Darwin trades, which in Darwin's position, he's going to want to.
He has to trade.
Yeah. Vapor Snag means never mind that. Take 1, then take 7, go to 4, a million things to answer, and Ben Friedman has that Mana Leak in hand. This is the major difference between a card like Duress and a card like Mana Leak. Duress might take a card out of someone's hand that's a threat, but Mana Leak takes away their time.
Right.
And that's one of the differences between, say, an aggro control deck and a mid-range deck.
Exactly, and you saw this aggro control deck just completely put the pressure on Darwin Kastle here as, he had no shot this game. He just kept a hand that was way too slow. His first play was turn 3 Borderland Ranger, and against a deck like Delver, that's just not fast enough. If he knew what he was playing against, he probably would have mulliganed.
You know, one of the things Darwin does not have, and he just even lets that Blade Splicer resolve because it's not that big of a deal to him. I believe that, here you go to 1 and then snag for the win.
Yeah,
Boom.
there it is. A really quick game 1. Ben Friedman wins comfortably, showing why Delver is the most powerful and popular deck in Standard right now.
Yeah, like one of the things, I know that Darwin does not have as much time to play Magic as he wants. And as a result, I think you can kind of see that a little bit with that keep. That hand was just fine against a deck that was not Delver.
Right.
And the problem with saying quote-unquote Delver, right, is that right now in blue-white, the gamut with which various blue-white decks that attack kind of move from, you can have something that's as aggressive as the 4 Invisible Stalker, 4 Runechanter's Pike, 4 Thought Scour builds. And you can make it go a little bit more slow and slow it down just a touch to have it be like the Jerry Thompson-inspired Restoration Angel Geist decks. Or you can slow it down a touch more to go to something like what Ben Friedman is playing, which is a Blade Splicer build. Or you can slow it down a touch more and go to what Sam Black is playing, which he's calling kind of a blue-white mid-range, which is probably a pretty close approximation of what it's doing because Sam isn't often putting down that same kind of clock, though sometimes he can. And if you even go a step slower, if you end up with a deck that could be Snapcaster, Angel, and then
Solar Flare
not much else, and you start moving into this other archetype space. I mean, that's a very broad range of things, but I mean, Sam Black is probably, his blue-white list is probably the top of what we would call the range of this shell of an archetype, and it's actually pretty far off from the actual Delver builds. Sam calls it Delverless Delver sometimes. Pretty much on the idea that with Delver versus Delver, one of the best things you can do is side out Delver.
Right.
According to some players. Other players say that that's crazy talk. I am not sure which way to go because I've heard very reputable people on both sides of that argument. Now, here you are, you're Darwin, and you have a limited amount of time to test. Well, what Delver deck do you test against?
Right, exactly.
You
you probably just jam a stock list with 4 Delver Secrets, 4 Restoration Angels, 4 Geist. All of a sudden you're caught with your pants down, your opponent plays a Gideon Jura.
Right.
You have no answer to it. You have no Beast Within, you have nothing like that.
So Darwin, what he has access to that I think is going to be probably one of his more likely cards, he's going to bring in Huntmaster as another card to kind of up his life, just the whole way that Huntmaster works. Now, Huntmaster is not a great card when you're talking about the aggro of Huntmaster, because a Delver deck now has Angels.
Right. That just ambushes the Huntmaster or the token really easily.
Right.
It's tough.
Right, but on the other hand, he kind of got hurt pretty bad there with the aggression, and just trying to make sure that he has like 2 Huntmasters instead of 1 seems like a reasonable thing to do. And then probably O-Rings. I think the O-Rings, as a Delver answer, there are very few answers to O-Ring other than bouncing your own guy and hoping that you can have it be your only guy so that the O-Ring takes out your opponent's creature.
Right. And you have to have an answer to Restoration Angel if you're Darwin Kastle. You can't lean too hard on Bonfire of the Den because a lot of times it probably won't resolve. By that time, they'll have a mana leak.
Now, I'm not sure how you feel about Wolfer Avenger in this matchup. Darwin, again, does not know what style of blue-white he's playing against. But Wolfer is very good at being a Simian Grunt and jumping in the way of a Geist.
Yeah.
Now, Ben does not have Geists. Ben is a Blade Splicer deck.
Right. Now, I do normally like the Wolfir Avenger because it sort of lets you play more of a draw-go game with the Delver deck. So you go end of turn 3/3, untap, now I resolve the spell I really want to resolve.
That's what I like it for, too.
Not very good against Ben Friedman's deck because Ben Friedman has 4 Blade Splicer, 4 Restoration Angel, so he has 8 creatures that can really profitably block that.
Yeah.
I would still side it in, but...
I would side it in, but I wouldn't be excited about it.
No.
Interestingly, Darwin's deck only one Strangleroot Geist.
Yeah, that's a card that really defined these green aggro decks for a long time, and now here he has... Well, he does have the 4 green sun to search it out, but...
I think that he's basing his deck on this engine. 7 mana acceleration, and then 4 green suns, 4 bonfire, 4 pod.
Yeah.
And so he's really pushing pod, not trying to get card advantage, but trying to get card selection. Because Geist Pod is a great combo. Now, you can see Darwin Kastle there on your right. Now, for those of you who say to yourself, you know, I've never seen that guy before, but he looks familiar, you might recognize his art on the card Avalanche Riders.
Oh.
Darwin Kastle, an early invitational winner, and so his likeness is on the card Avalanche Riders.
Yep.
It was one of the very first times we saw something like that happen. Might have been, was he the first invitational winner? I think he might have been.
I think Ole Rade did, but his card was printed
That's right.
later.
Darwin Kastle was the first invitational winner whose card was printed. Ole Rade's Sylvan Safekeeper. He didn't realize what an honor it was until after he saw other people who had had that honor given to them. And so he was like, hey, remember when I won that invitational?
I will actually take that card.
I will make a card.
And I will make one of the worst invitational cards that has been printed, thank you.
And yet, still a card that sees play from time to time.
Exactly.
Sylvan Safekeeper, green for a 1/1, sacrifice a land to make a creature, is it indestructible or untargetable? We can check
I
in
don't
1 second.
remember.
Let's check.
I think untargetable.
I think it's untargetable too.
Yeah, it did see some play in the Protean Hulk
Shroud.
combo decks. Oh, Shroud. Okay.
It didn't say Shroud to begin with.
No, no card from Judgment says Shroud.
Yeah, they retrofitted that Shroud onto it.
Yep. So Shroud versus Hexproof. I know this topic has been beaten to death by a lot of people, but quick thoughts while they're sideboarding. What do you
Shroud
think?
versus Hexproof. Only green should have Hexproof, and Shroud should be the thing we see with everything else. I like that. Yeah,
I do. I think that Geist of Satan Shaft is a huge mistake. We're going to see that card for years to come in so many different formats. I think that guy's underrated in Legacy right now.
The problem with him in Legacy is that 3 mana is a lot of mana, and we're off to the races. Darwin Kastle, turn 1, no play, versus a turn 1 Delver, which looks like it has Mana Leak written on it.
Yep. Ben Friedman wishes that was a split card, but just a Delver, and passes it right back to Darwin.
Green Suns for 1, perhaps? I hope he doesn't pass the turn.
Yep.
Green Suns for 1.
Green Sun for 1. Now, Darwin cannot keep a hand without a bird, an Avacyn's Pilgrim, or a Green Sun. He just can't do it. He has to mulligan it in this matchup. So that's what he does. Gets out his Mana Elf, and he'll ship it back. And Ben Friedman, you see those hands rubbing together. He would love to flip this Delver.
Now, one of the things that is very dangerous for Darwin is that Ben Friedman does have Gutshot in his deck, and only 1 main, so that's very fortunate. But Gutshot versus an elf deck, when I say an elf deck, I mean elves, birds, pilgrims, can be very devastating with Snapcaster Mage, and a lot of times these green decks get torn up by a Wayward Gutshot plus... oh, is that a Dissipating's revealing?
Dissipating.
That's interesting.
That's a great reveal for Ben Friedman. Flips his Delver turn 2. Now he'll ponder. Try and set up a piece of counter magic, a Vapor Snag, and theoretically that'll be all he needs to take this game here.
That's a natural flip on the Delver. One of the more unfair things that can happen in Standard.
Turn 1, 3/2 flyer. Go. So now with his other mana, Dismember. So
it's not a Gutshot, but it's still pretty good.
Just as good. Takes out that Mana Elf. Ben Friedman knows how important it is to limit Darwin's mana here. And also use every bit of his own mana, more importantly.
And Darwin turns that around after Ben's shuffle.
So we'll see what he can do for 3 mana here. Now, against a lot of decks, he'd love to get out a Birthing Pod, but that might just be too slow against Insectile Aberration.
One of the things I learned when I was hanging out with Darwin this weekend is that, and there we have a turn 2 Borderland Rangers is that the Your Move Games crew, Rob Doherty, Darwin Kastle, etc., that they have a specific way they set up their deck for drawing.
Really?
That they face the edge of the sleeve towards themselves, so that when they pull up the edge of the card to look at it, it's already facing them.
That's good for miracle cards, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and they basically, if any, an attack for 3 from Ben Friedman with the Delver, if anyone that they play with doesn't do that, they're like, no, you can't play that way anymore.
That's the one rule. That's the one rule if you want to be on the YMG
They've got
team.
a couple, but I mean, that was one of them. And they said that basically it just makes it so that when you're playing, you play more naturally with giving away less information while still being able to look at cards. 2 damage coming in with the Borderland Ranger.
Yep, Darwin Kastle doing his best to keep this race even. Life total is 14 apiece, thanks to Ben's Dismember.
We see a Restoration Angel main phase.
Main phase Angel. Blinks his Ranger. Looks to get another land. Now, he played a land this turn. I'm surprised to not see him go for that during the upkeep. Or, huh.
Yeah, he did play a land this turn, didn't he?
What's the logic behind the main phase Restoration Angel, you think?
It could be one of 2 things. Either he doesn't care if it gets countered, or he thinks that he's just basically trying to get information about whether there's a mana leak.
Okay.
That would be the logic, is if there is a good reason, the reason would be trying to get information, and he doesn't care if it gets countered.
Right.
That's a pretty big claim, though.
Also, he does know about the Dissipate in Ben Friedman's hand.
Absolutely.
Ben Friedman without double blue, so does not want to let him get the Dissipate up. Ben Friedman stumbling a little bit here.
Now, here's one of the questions you ask yourself at this point. As Darwin, you have the option to attack with this Restoration Angel, and the Borderland Ranger is going to come in regardless, almost certainly. Well, there's the possibility that a Restoration Angel from Ben Friedman might hop in the way as well. So, here he comes.
Ooh, attacks with both, no fear.
There's the Angel. Chooses not to blink anything.
Nope, does not want to flip that Delver back.
Now, he's required to target something, but he's not required to activate the ability.
Right.
Or not activate, however you want to put it.
So, Restoration Angel will eat the Borderland Ranger for lunch. Ben Friedman drops to 11 life.
Darwin, we know, has a land in his hand. If he has a Bonfire,
Ooh,
that would be devastating.
huge.
Does he have it? He's got 4 in his deck. Bonfire for 2? No.
Does it have the mana for that? Is that red XX?
I believe it's red XX. Birthing Pod.
Right, just the 1 red, of course, yeah. So
It sacrifices the Angel. Gets a 5-er. Acidic Slime is one of his only 5s. He also has Wolfear Silverheart.
Yeah, both of those.
Sigarda.
Not that strong right now. Sigarda.
There's
now,
Sigarda.
That's a big game right there. That's a 5/4 Shroud, and Ben Friedman, how's he going to get through that?
I don't know.
Phantasmal Image. That is his answer, the Legend rule.
And the thing about Sigarda, or probably I should say Phantasmal Image, is that Ben Friedman has every reason to keep his Phantasmal Images in against a deck like this. And were he to have more on the board, which he has 1 of, every reason to bring it in as well.
Right. Phantasmal Image is one of those cards that it's rarely a 4 of in the main deck, but it's just so powerful. You almost always want 3 or 4 somewhere in the 75.
And you see Darwin Kastle flipping the deck back around after he draws. That's not how he wants it set.
No. And you know, I sort of wonder if Ben Friedman picked up on that and is doing that on purpose here.
Bird of Paradise represents any 2-drop that Darwin wants.
Probably would go for something like a Viridian Emissary. Just keep chaining up Strangle Rootgeist, maybe.
Here goes the dude. Goodbye, little birdie.
And Darwin Kastle not paying life, realizing that he wants to keep his life total as high as possible. Does not want to get Alpha Strike here.
Hexproof. Alpha
Strike?
Struck. Yeah. Hexproof is so powerful here. I mean, you would have said before, oh, Sigarda, it'll just get Vapor Snagged. No, it will not. It's got that green ability we were talking about earlier that somehow found its way onto a blue-white card.
Green-white? The green-white
No,
card,
I
yeah.
was saying with the...
yeah.
I'm referring to
Geist.
Geist. I'm referring to Geist.
Mono blue card, too. The Stalker.
I still think that Mark Rosewater is kicking himself on flavor with Invisible Stalker, and that it should have unblockable and
Protection
hexproof.
from artifacts.
Oh, no. Unblockable and hexproof only when unequipped.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
otherwise you see the sword hanging out in the air.
Right, exactly. and then you can block that guy. No more Butcher's Cleavers.
We see another angel from Ben Friedman, and now he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. There's a 5/5 hanging out, just saying, hey, what's going on?
Yep, and any Phantasmal Image he draws just instantly represents lethal here.
Here they come, I think. He's going to throw away a creature, which is very reasonable. Throw away a creature to get Darwin down to 3.
Right, and then he'll have 2/3 Power Flyers with Moorland Haunt active, and it'll be tough for Darwin to come back. He has to know that Darwin can't play much removal in his Birthing Pod deck. Birthing Pod decks just don't have room for much removal at all. Especially given how Darwin's drawing his cards, he might be putting him on Bonfire.
Right.
Now, we can't see Ben's hand too well right now, but if you're him, I think you have to attack.
I mean, honestly, I feel like -1 card for 6 damage. That's a good trade right now.
When your opponent's at 9.
Oh, is that an
definitely.
image? Okay. We've got... he's got a probe there he's getting with the Snapcaster. And there's an image.
Wow.
He drew the image.
So now that actually changes things. Without the image, it was definitely an attack. With the image, though,
He says go.
he's just going to play it safe. Hopefully, for him, Darwin will tap out.
Oh, is Darwin actually at 12?
Oh, that would make a lot more sense. then,
Oh,
why he
okay. The
didn't
Darwin
attack.
Darwin is not at 9. He's at 12. That changes the universe.
That extra 3 life is a lot. So
Yeah.
we'll see what Darwin does here. He can possibly chain the Strangler Geist into a 3-drop, something like a Fiend Hunter, or Borderland Ranger, or the Daybreak rather, if he thinks he has enough time. But I have to imagine we'll see him get a Fiend Hunter.
I think that if Darwin plays this right, he wants a Fiend Hunter on the table, period. Just because, he knows that this is a blue deck on the other side of the table. Things can go wrong. Just having a creature off the table that's attacking. And we're going to see what happens here. What do we got?
Looks like it might be a lot of mana here for Darwin.
That is a lot of mana. And now, look, Bennett has no blue open. Darwin can do what he wants.
Bonfire for 3?
I'm thinking he might, if not Bonfire, maybe have a 6-drop and then follow up with, nope, it's a 4-drop.
Wow, another pod. So now he's representing...
Cool. Wow, he can make an Elishnorn.
Yeah, that would... Ooh. We'll see which way he goes here. He can go get a Fiend Hunter and then something else, but no.
I think he's going to get
Yeah.
Wormcoil or Primeval Titan and then Elishnorn.
Yeah, it's looking like Wormcoil into Elishnorn, representing a ton of power.
I mean, it could be Wormcoil or it could be Primeval.
Oh,
he goes with Primeval.
Wow. I'm a little surprised to not see him get the Wormcoil there, but I guess he wants to get that Wolf run out. That card can pose a lot of problems to a Delver deck.
I mean, if you look at Ben Friedman's life total, Ben is very low. So this Elishnorn represents knocking Ben to potentially 3 life. Actually, pardon me, 2 life. No, 3 life, 3 life. The Strangler Geist is a 2/1, so it'll become a 4/3 with an Elishnorn input.
Right.
You can see the Kastle run and a Copperline Gorge, and then goodbye Primeval Titan.
Yep, Darwin paying 2 life in the process, going to 10.
And here comes the Elishnorn, killing 2 creatures,
Boom, the Grand Cenobite.
making these angels into 1/2s, and then also making the Phantasmal Image in Ben Friedman's hand good, because it's getting rid of an Elishnorn, but the huge damage risk that Darwin was facing, now gone.
Right. Now, Ben Friedman's going to drop to 3 life here, assuming Darwin attacks.
Now let's pretend Darwin's attacking here. He's got no reason not to. Let's pretend that Ben takes it, and he blocks.
Oh, wow.
Good call on Ben's part, I think. I mean, even if he can get rid of that Elishnorn, he still has to survive, and he just scoops it up.
That must not have been a Phantasmal Image in his hand there.
Looked like one to me, but maybe not.
Wow, so Darwin Kastle takes game 2, evens it up.
Well, let's pretend, though. Let's pretend you lay the Phantasmal Image, and there's double Birthing Pod and a Strangler Geist in play. You know what that represents. That means that you're going to lose your Phantasmal Image, not have any blue sources up, be mostly tapped out, have your 1 Restoration Angel, and you know that he's going to be able to get a 4-drop in play as well as chain through a 3-drop on the way.
Right.
So, I mean, that can't be good, you know? Like, it's going to become very problematic for you. That's assuming, of course, that Ben has it, and if he doesn't have it, then it's just over.
Right. At that point, the game's over, but if he did have it, he would not be in good shape. Maybe he just saw the writing on the wall there.
Right.
It up. So they'll go back to their sideboards. We didn't really go over Ben's sideboard during sideboarding last time, so I'll run you down that. He has some Day of Judgment, some Gideon Juras, a Plains to go with those more expensive spells, a pair of O-Rings, a pair of Timelies, and then a lot of one-ofs to round it out. Dissipate, Negate, Sphinx, Sun Titan, Purge, Phantasmal Image. So a lot of options here, and as always with Delver, it's really tough to know how they're going to sideboard.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I always like to point to is a statement from Brian Kowal a long time ago, in which he talked about sideboard guides. And sideboard guides, according to Kowal, are generally a bad way to go about thinking about sideboarding in Magic, because you don't sideboard against a deck, you sideboard against how a person plays.
Right.
The way that two people who are very good play, they might be very different from each other. Let alone, let's say we're going to go to a moment in the past, right? The average player playing fairies might play it in a certain way. And you compare that to Paulo Vitor Damo de Rosa.
Pablo Doritos.
Yeah, or Sam Black. Those two players who are very, very good fairy players might play it quite differently. And if you sideboard the way that you're supposed to sideboard against a master, and your opponent instead goes with another path, your sideboard plan might take you away from what your opponent's doing. Now, Darwin has kind of shown that he's willing to keep some slower hands.
Right. He mulliganed a few hands that he kept a few hands that I definitely would have mulliganed.
Yeah.
Even that second one,
I'm not sure about that second one.
Yeah, I didn't see all the cards in it, but generally you want a 1-drop against Delver.
Yeah.
You would have to have a 1-drop.
One of the ways you can fight Delver as an aggro control deck, their plan is to get a clock down and then protect it so that it's enough to kill you. And one of the ways to beat an aggro control deck is just to go underneath them by being faster. Now, that means keeping faster hands. You've got 7 accelerators. A turn 2 accelerator in the form of Green Sun Zenith for 1 is not that great, particularly if you see what happened that game where he casts it and then there was a Dismember ready, let alone a Gut Shot.
Exactly. I mean, if you're Darwin Kastle, you can have some great openings. You can have turn 1 Mana Elf into turn 2 Daybreak range.
Yes.
And that's really good against Delver.
Now, what happened in that game, Ben Friedman didn't see a second blue and just kind of choked on it. You know, he didn't have the ability to cast his spells. We see a Seachrome Coast from Ben Friedman for game 3 here, and it looks like a pass.
And end of turn, Ben will Thought Scour himself, milling a Probe and a Haunt. Draws a Snapcaster, untaps, draws a Phantasmal Image.
We see a Copperline Gorge from Darwin Kastle. Turn 2, think we're going to see a Snapcaster Probe?
It looks like it. Ben does not have a lot of land. He would love to draw a third one right here.
Snapcaster Probe. Hey, look at my hand.
So Ben...
Plains, forests, angel, land, something, Thalia.
Yeah, I think...
Bonfire Thalia.
Oh, 2 Thalias.
Okay, that's not an
Wow.
angel, it's a Thalia.
So how about this keep from Darwin Kastle? What do you think?
I don't mind it so much, actually. I mean, he can't cast his Bonfire, but he's not planning on casting it right away. And a Thalia versus Delver is actually very potent. Clearly it can walk into an angel, but you'll notice that Probe, it's like the mana is all tapped out here. You know, that a 2/1 first striker can't be stopped by anything that isn't an angel.
No, it's really, it doesn't seem that impressive, especially when you have a card like Bonfire of the Damned in your deck. But really, it does a lot of work in a lot of really small ways.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if he was on the play, Ben Friedman wouldn't have been able to go turn 2 Snapcaster Probe. He would be an entire turn behind just because of a turn 2 Thalia there. So we'll see what Ben has for his... Oh, he drew a Gut Shot.
Wow. Now he has got Gut Shot and Phantasmal Image. So he can actually do Gut Shot on the Thalia, as he's just doing there, spending the 1 extra mana on it.
Yep.
And then if he wants to later, he can image, and he doesn't even have to image the new Thalia. If he gets a total of 3 mana, he can image the Snapcaster and then Gut Shot it. But again, he still needs that extra mana, and he does not have it.
No, he's a little choked on lands right now. He does have 2 Vapor Snags in his hand, so
yeah.
Those will buy him a lot of time here.
And there's the Thalia, which again, Vapor Snag can't be cast through that Thalia.
Nope.
So he could just image the, if he doesn't have the land, he could just image the Thalia.
Yeah, I think he just drew a Dismember. We'll see if he uses that. Yes,
Yep,
he does.
there we go.
So Dismember drops Ben Friedman to 12, but Darwin will be going to 18?
I think that's the first hit. That must be the second hit. I think he's at 16.
16. I think so too. So Darwin,
Remember, Darwin he didn't have that red source before, so he's got a couple more mana in there, and he's got a bonfire in his hand. There's an elk just sitting around. Moo. I don't know what noises they make. But
yeah, it's probably pretty close. Some sort of low grunt.
Offering a trade here, and I think Darwin's just going to be like, have a 1/1.
Yep. So Darwin will take that trade. Ben happy to get his creature off the board because of that bonfire. The fewer creatures for him, the better here. And really, he just needs to draw one land. He doesn't need two. It would be nice for the Angel, but really just one at this point. He's so choked on mana.
And Ben running 22 mana in his deck. Darwin does not sack the Elk. It represents a 6-turn clock, which is actually pretty short. It's not a very much time for Ben.
No, that Elk is pretty big right now. 20% of Ben's life each turn.
For remember, Darwin has Bonfire in his hand. That Bonfire right now is a Bonfire for 2 once he gets to go there. Vapor Snag from Ben Friedman, getting the Elk off the table. Darwin lets that happen. And I believe Ben's going to untap and probably say go, regardless if there's a land or not.
Ooh, and that is a Plains. Any land was good for Ben Friedman. Didn't have to be a blue source. Would have liked a Moorland Haunt, but he's not going to be picky at this point.
I don't think he has a Blade Splicer, so I think it's just going to be land, go. Hope for the next land.
Oh, Delver Secrets.
Delver, there we go. He's got enough for the Mana Leak. Okay, I didn't know he had a Delver in his hand. It looks like it's an Abraham Lincoln Delver.
Okay. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Abraham Lincoln, Lincoln Aberration.
That Delver art looks pretty interesting. We got a Elk and then a Bird of Paradise, both working out.
Yep, Darwin respecting the possibility of Mana Leak.
And end of turn Snapcaster. I think that's Abraham Lincoln.
We'll go with you. I will go with the benefit of the doubt there. So
Snapcaster does a gut shot, kills the little bird.
Abraham does not flip though, and there's that Moorland Haunt. Ben Friedman draws the second and only Moorland Haunt left in his deck.
We're about to see the 4-mana Angel threat, where if Darwin does nothing, we can see an Angel come out.
And target Snapcaster Mage.
Well, I mean, he might even wait if he wants to get like another Dismember off, as risky as that is.
Right, he has 8 life, but he doesn't have to worry about too much out of Darwin in terms of direct damage.
We see Darwin rearranging his mana. He might be thinking about a Bonfire for 1 with the ability to keep himself safe from Mana Leak.
And it looks like that's what he's
Bonfire
doing.
for 1.
And Darwin, been playing a long time. He's been playing around Mana Leak since 1998. He knows what's up. Ben
Tempest.
Friedman, yeah. Ben Friedman can only look on and bin his creatures here. He can Restoration Angel in response, but
it's still going to come back and die.
Not at end of turn. Right away, it comes back. Now he can Vapor Snag his own Snapcaster, but it looks like he's just going to let them both die. Restoration Angel more important to get on the battlefield here.
Now Darwin's in a position of, does he even want to attack here? I mean, there's the Angel.
Yeah. He doesn't attack. He knows that if Ben Friedman is not countering, is not Vapor Snagging, it means he almost definitely has the Angel. So Darwin Kastle drops to 10. Angel going to work on his life total.
2 mana here. Image. Wow. Making another Angel.
Yep, and that of course will not blink anything, non-Angel creature. And he'll just say go with Mana Leak still up.
And now Darwin's thinking about sacrificing this Elk here.
Right, he knows that he will have to resolve a big spell to win this game, and he wants to play on that Mana Leak.
He just lets it happen. What's he got? Draw.
Doesn't look like it was a Bonfire.
Now you're seeing the power of the Restoration Angel right now. 3/4 is so huge.
Yeah, in current standard right now, a 3/4 rules almost every creature combat.
1, 2, 3, 4 mana for a Huntmaster. With enough mana to go through.
Yep, and this will resolve. Ben Friedman, though, sitting on a Vapor Snag.
That's 12 life for Darwin. That means only 2 attacks for Ben.
Right. You know, if he was just at a few more life, 2 or 3 more life, it would be an entire time walk. But as it is, Ben Friedman is in the driver's seat with 2 mana leaks and a Vapor Snag in hand. And yep, he does snag the Huntmaster there. He'll untap and draw. Delver does not flip.
This means he can double mana leak if he wishes. So attack, knock you to 5. You cast the Huntmaster. I leak it. There's no outs for Darwin as long as Ben just says go.
No, I can't think of a card in his deck here that'll save him. Maybe an end of turn Wolfear Avenger will.
Actually, that's a good point. An end of turn Wolfear Avenger actually does a lot of work if he has it.
Right, Darwin, though, with only 2 cards in hand, one of which is Huntmaster that fells, you would have to have the perfect combination of cards in hand and on top of the deck to win this one.
And there's the untap. That's signaling Darwin's death.
Yep, Darwin draws, not a Bonfire of the Damned. And now he's going to have to tap out for this Huntmaster futilely. He knows it's probably not going to resolve.
Now you're Ben, you can mana leak here, and if Darwin pays, then you just do it again. And if he doesn't pay, then you counter what he casts after.
Yep, and Ben just flips up one of the cards in his hand, and Darwin knows that they're both mana leaks. He didn't even look at which card he flipped up.
It was a small earthquake there. You could see the world shake.
Yep.
That's
They're common in Worcester.
Darwin's like, I've got the 3 here.
Why would you mana leak? He's asking himself.
He knows.
Yep. Mana leak.
There's
mana
the
leak.
other one.
Mana leak handshake. Now, Darwin Kastle can knock Ben to 3, but it won't quite be enough. Ben Friedman will squeak this one out.
And Ben draws, kills. Boom, handshake.
So that was a great match. Ben Friedman, Darwin Kastle. The first game was a little disappointing. Darwin kept a slow hand, but those last 2 were really close.
Yeah. Now,